Again, welcome to your March Professional Development Grant Talking Circle. Let's go ahead and play the disclaimer.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Okay, now that we've been disclaimed, let's take a look at our agenda and what we're up to today. Welcome, first of all. Welcome again to your March PD Talking Circle. Today, we're going to be doing a lot of sharing, particularly around the area of recruitment document and processes. We're going to start with some grantees who we've asked to share, and then you folks are going to get a chance to sort of break off into small groups to share amongst yourselves. We're also going to have some question and answer time. And then, of course, at the end, going through and updating you on upcoming events. We've got a lot of great stuff happening later this year. And so we want to make sure you have that information. Next slide, please. Of course, we're welcome. We have your wonderful program officer, Angela Hernandez, here. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Alani. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining.
And so let's get into it.
Okay. Thank you, Alani. Appreciate your intro. Welcome, everybody. And I'm really excited to be able to have a chance to have you all really take the lead in today's talking circle. I want to spend some time based on the many questions I know that have come across my desk over the last few weeks around recruitment, as I know things gear up for many of you. One reminder, in the event that you weren't part of the prior talking circle back in February, we did touch on some of the FAQs related really to issues around qualifying topics and characteristics of potential recruits. And so if you didn't have a chance to join that last month, I would definitely encourage you to go back to the link to watch that February talking circle where we address some of those questions specifically about the candidates. But today we want to kind of turn to you all and really spend some time talking about what you are required to do and some of the processes related to those requirements, and then give you guys a chance to kind of share some best practices, lessons learned, and then we can come back as a large group also and address any additional questions. And thank you to the Synergy team for putting this together today. And I'll also add that we have Karen Schroll on the line. As you guys know, that DCS piece, in particular, inputting student data becomes part of that recruitment process. And so if there are any process questions related to the DCS, Karen will be prepared to answer that as well. Next slide, please. So what do you have to do? Well, to know what you have to do, you can do two things. You can look at the notice inviting applications from your respective application, your RFP year, or you can look at the program regulations. And the program regulations, of course, go into a little bit more detail. So just really as a reminder for reference, I'm really just putting here on these slides the language that comes directly from those program regulations that say what you, the grantees, are charged with doing. And so before you provide the funds or the services to your participant, you are required to conduct what we call a payback meeting with the participant to explain the costs of training and payback responsibilities following training. Many of you have come up with really creative and innovative ways to do this. And I'd say you even stepped it up, right, when you had to over the last couple of years with COVID and having to do these things remotely. So I'm hoping you'll talk a little bit about how you've come about getting to that point of putting together what that meeting or what that presentation looks like, what that conversation looks like with your respective candidates and actual participants in talking about what those rights and responsibilities are for them, both during and following the training. Next slide. So, of course, at the end of that payback conversation, you are hoping they're still eager and ready to go. And so you're soliciting and asking them to complete a signed payback agreement. The link here, and Olani, if you want to copy that and just throw it in the chat, that's just a reminder that takes you to the link of the actual copy of the actual payback agreement, which of course all those resources are on the DCS under resources section on the homepage, and you don't need to sign in to see those resources and tools. But you're going to have them sign the standard, meaning the OMB cleared document that we have on file there. And you can do it electronically. Many of you, if not all of you, have been part of that training for electronic version of the service payback. Some of you choose to still do the paper for lots of different reasons. And so that is also still an option. But that agreement should include those estimated total training costs, the anticipated length of training, and a statement explaining so that they are very clear, your prospective candidates, that the work has to be done in an LEA that serves a high proportion of Indian students, and the regulatory definition of that phrase. And then information documenting that the grantee held a payback meeting with a participant that meets the requirements of this section. So if you're doing this kind of presentation and discussion with a group of people at once, that might be your sign-in sheet, that might be some other attestation that you've created on your own. It can be any number of things, but again, just you want documentary evidence, right? That you've done, you've carried out these requirements. Next slide. And then again, this is just a series of links. And Olani, again, if you want to pop those into the chat for folks, the electronic service payback agreement, and we had a training event on that. So there are links to those items. And just remembering that even if you add additional documents, which you of course have the discretion to do in terms of your own requirements or policies or expectations specific to this project, that you are including this verbatim. And so it really is critical that it's not adjusted or edited in any way. If you have other things to add, again, I would suggest adding a separate document and not changing the language that's cleared here. And that's for, frankly, legal reasons in terms of any efforts to collect a federal debt in the event that a participant does not complete and is not compliant with either a cash or service payback. Okay. Any questions about those basic requirements? And feel free to throw them in the chat. If you think of them later, we can certainly come back to those. Next slide. We say in our regulations that you must have a signed payback agreement to the department within 30 days of signing the payback agreement. So if you're doing it in the DCS as an electronic service payback agreement, that's ideal because it's all done there at once. You certainly can submit it subsequently, uploading the documents, of course. But that 30 days is critical, really just for the purposes of being able to, one, have it clearly on record. It's your assurances, it's their assurances all in one place, and what is required in order to begin what we call a service payback obligation for each participant. Karen, I don't know if there's anything more you want to add, or if we're good on this.
I think we're good, unless there are questions.
Okay. Next slide, please. So that was just me in a nutshell, sharing all the basics. You guys, most of you know this. There are some of you that are new to that. So please kind of take the time to look through that service payback agreement to know what it is you're going to be asking people for when you get to that point of actually signing them on. What I wanted to do was start by turning it over to some of your colleagues that have been doing this work for a while and that have really created some, I think, ingenious and elaborate ways to carry out the work in an efficient manner and to be thorough about it and to make sure, frankly, that participants have all the information they need, right, to make an informed decision. So I want to spend maybe about the next 20 minutes. And so Maria, Carmelita, Kelly, if you guys want to just kind of think 5 minutes or so of just kind of sharing out, one, just going over some of your processes, spending some time sharing what any major items that you've tweaked or changed as a result of sort of lessons learned. And I'd like to hear sort of what kind of feedback loop you have maybe with your participants about how they feel about the processes that they've gone through that you've created for them. So again, it's a learning opportunity. I know you guys get better at it every year. And so with that, I'm going to start by turning it over. Maria, I'm hoping you have your sound now. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great. I think Joel was going to put up a one pager that I had prepared for the talk. There we go. So we have, first of all, I'd like to introduce my co-PI, Dr. Mickey Caskey, who's on the webinar with us. And we'll be very quick. I just wanted to let you know that our program is now called the First Nations Administrator Knowledge Keepers Project. We chose that name because, frankly, people were not sure whether or not American Indian was better to use. We used to have the American Indian Teacher Program, and then some people didn't like Indigenous teachers. So I'm not sure how everyone feels about First Nations, but we needed to get a title there. We kept the Knowledge Keepers in the title because we want to keep serving our Native teachers who have graduated. We over 10 years, I'd say close to 36 teachers who are practicing from Alaska to New Mexico. And we still hear from them all the time, and they stay in touch. Many of them come back to our graduation ceremony. So our primary goal has been to make those relationships with all of our teachers year after year as they come back for a graduation ceremony, to keep that sense of family and let's bring on the next people as we start to move into other areas like the administrative program. So I will say very quickly that I'm sure that most of the people on this call have done the same sort of recruitment that we've done in terms of just a widespread outreach through eBlast. Our neighbors in Washington State have almost 3 times as many tribes as Oregon has, but they have a wonderful eBlast out of their Indian Education Project. So they sent us they sent out news about this new program, and we began hearing from Washington Native teachers, and it was great because we have a reciprocity agreement with the state of Washington, between Washington and Oregon. We were holding our breath though, because because of the pandemic, we were hearing that things were not too good in the schools, and people weren't even sure they wanted to teach, much less be an administrator, even starting out as an assistant principal. So we were holding our breath. Luckily for us, and I'll speak to those of you who are in an administrative program or in an urban setting or contemplating it, we got in touch immediately with the teachers that we had graduated. And we also asked Michelle Jacob, I don't know if she's on the call, but I'll give a shout out to her at University of Oregon, asked if they would write to all of their students so that we would have more Oregon students, because we have so few administrators here. We also got in touch with the school district, human resources offices, not entirely across the state. We focused on those where there was a huge concentration or larger than usual concentration of Native students, and actually developed partnership agreements with them, such as the Lincoln County School District out on the Oregon coast because the Siletz tribe is located there. In the past, we've done tribal nation newspapers, and some of the tribes still run our ads for Native teachers in their newspapers. I think the key to recruitment that we saw was immediately after a student wrote to the admissions office and we didn't hear about it, the admissions office or person would send that email on to us and we would write to them. We would send them stories of the students who are in the program and articles about the work that they are doing and why they are going into administrative careers. So we hope that that would generate the next set of questions they have about whether or not they wanted to step up and become an administrator. Then as the timeline started shortening, we took our instruction steps that, like most of you might have a mainstream university that has a whole set of instructions on a website. And sometimes that website is not very navigable. It's hard to navigate, at least ours is. So we drafted a new bridge formula for steps on completing the admissions process. And we sent that out because teachers are busy, they need those shortcuts. If they could send in official transcripts that are at their local district, good and well. Then as the days started shortening, we sent them reminders asking them how they're doing. You can do this. All you have to do is send it. I checked your records. We just need this one last mentor contract or a reference for your completion of your file. And now we're in the process of doing a welcome packet because back when we started our teacher program, we did a little handy little pocket size brochure with several pages on what the payback was all about, on why it was important to be in a place where there was a high population of Indian students, and what the contacts were at the Department of Ed. So I think we'll do a more thorough welcome packet that will have our policies and practices and just all kinds of resources. So we're in the process of getting that revamped. And the last thing I'll say is that we look upon induction as immediate. So as soon as our students are admitted, we invite them to a meeting to introduce the Indigenous mentors that we found. We've had 3 mentors this year for our 3 students. They continue to have discussions with these mentors individually as they agree on the schedule. We bring them back every couple of months. And Dr. Caskey has been very welcoming to have host dinners in her home during the pandemic. And some of us wore masks at first, and now we're feeling very comfortable just sitting around the table and talking. And the induction will continue through graduation. We'll continue to have quarterly meetings with our mentors during the first year of their employment. And then maybe that will slip down to twice a year, and then maybe once a year, a gathering. Our professional development opportunities start as soon as they begin their studies through NIEA, which was, I believe, online this year, but a couple of our students are reaching out to go to AERA, the Educational Research Association Annual Conference, and they attend the administrative job fairs. I hope I wasn't too rushed. And I'd be glad to send any materials if anyone requests them. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And folks should still feel free to post things in the chat if you have questions that come up as folks are sharing. Carmelita.
Hi, how is everyone? It's I'm really honored to be in this group of individuals that have such tremendous plans. I'm working in the University of Marion, so I think maybe a large part of my recruitment success has been because I was deeply entrenched in the tribal college system before I went to the University of Mary. And so I knew, I mean, I'd spent my entire career up in the Turtle Mountain area as a high school teacher and then as the teacher education chair before I moved to the University of Mary. So I had like family there already. And so that certainly contributed to many of the things that I've been able to do with regard to recruiting. But as Maria was saying with her partners, our partners are very important with the design of the actual proposal. And each of those partners, when they send me a letter of support, I take them up on it. So it's not just something on paper. It's they send me that letter that I'm going to call them, or I'm going to go over to their school and ask to speak with individuals who may seek to become administrators or paraprofessionals that are ready to go into teaching, as a fully licensed teacher. So those are the kinds of, opportunities I hope to bring forward. And so, my friends within the Bureau, we used to call them line item officers, but they don't call them that anymore. They call them EPAs or ed program administrators. I've seen a few of them come through, and each time we've had a strong relationship. So if I get a new proposal that is funded, of course, they've always had a letter in there, and so I'm contacting them, and they follow through with sending individuals who they identify in their building as being potential leaders going forward. So that's always been very, very helpful. Not only that, I look at our undergrads that we've had in the program when we were preparing for the bachelor's, and now they've been in the field, they've been teaching for a few years, and they're seeking to advance their education within either special education or admin. And this comes at a time when it's good for them. The program is online, which is really good for them. So they're able to stay in their reservation communities or the communities surrounding our reservations and participate in online advanced degrees at the master's level. They have the opportunity to come to campus in the summertime, and some of them do. And when they do, the professional development program supports them in travel and the things that they need to be on campus for a week. And then they get to have that one-on-one experience with the professors, which they seem to like a lot. So when you think about, well, what is my recruitment? Well, it starts out with my partners that I've asked to support the grant to begin with. And so I go back to them and say, remember when you wrote that letter? And then from there, I go into my former students who had the bachelor's or are now seeking the master's. And then for the bachelor's programs, because I partner with tribal colleges, I leave that recruitment in their hands because they're the ones that want to recruit for their own program. And that's part of the partnership, that's part of their own sovereignty with regard to our grant. I'm there and I go visit them at least twice a semester or more. And I, bring coffee and donuts and those things. And we sit around and visit and see how things are going and what they need. And so then that kind of sets the tone for them with regard to their bachelor's program in the tribal college. So the University of Mary is serving both bachelor's and master's, but the bachelor's recruitment I leave to the tribal college because that's part of the partnership between us. And I recruit for the master's, the graduate level. Some of the things that we use GPA, of course. We use they have a goal letter. They write a letter or a message that gives specific information about their goal with regard to advanced ed. They write, they ask for 3 letters of recommendation. And then we put all that information together, and then and then we have a rubric because I get a lot of applicants and I can't bring them all in. And so the ones that make the cut score, then we bring them all to campus for a major meeting. And I bring the president and vice president comes in, our dean is there, faculty who teach are all there at that meeting, and it's an all-day meeting. They fill out their forms. They know exactly what induction looks like in the program because we talk about it, and they ask lots of questions and all the forms. They look at all the forms, and then I uploaded it. I did it all digitally for the 2021 award, which I thought was great. And at that point, they get to see who else is in their cohort, because I have students from South Dakota and North Dakota and from the Eastern, out at Spirit Lake, as well as, out just right along the Montana border. So all these individuals are together, and Turtle Mountain is in full force. They all get together in the room, and some are urban teachers or working in an urban environment. Some are reservation. And so they get together and they get in a room. And here's why that's important. I'm just going to share this. Can I share screen? Do I have that power?
Yes.
Okay, if I can share the screen, I'll tell you why that's important. Here's the deal. So we have what you see here. We use Canvas as our learning platform. And so they have their own page. These are some of my former graduates. They're lined up and ready. They're so excited. But anyway, so on this page, I send multiple announcements out there to them. I'll send them job information. I'll send them things about summer classes. Here's the job announcements and checking in for summer plans. I just sent in a midterm check-in. And these are videos, that I send to them. And so just to find out how you doing, how's it going, and let me know if you need anything, if you didn't get your textbook that I mailed out to you, if you're worried about something. I'm going to stop this share. I'm going to show you another thing that I use that I started using this year. I don't know how to stop the share and go to another one. Let's see. It was all going good.
It should say stop share at the very top of your screen.
At the top of my screen is where it is. Okay. What if I just get out of there? Okay. Share screen. I'm going to show you a new one. This one. And share. So do you see now a screen that has a bunch of data on it?
Yes.
Okay, so what this is at the end of the first semester, because these are all new recruits, and it's one thing to have a recruit, but you need to keep them, right? we can't just have them and then all of a sudden they kind of fall through the cracks. So I asked them specific questions about how's it going, and this has a big influence on the next year's recruiting. So by understanding what is working and what's not working for them, I can make adjustments to the way in which I operate the program that serves them better. So here they're asking, are the courses what you expected? The time that they, especially in the first semester, it's always a wake-up call, how much time it takes to go into graduate school. And I only allow them to take 2 classes only in the fall. They can take 2 in the spring, and in the summer, if they want to take more, that's okay. But then they got their legs on and they're better. They'll stay with me. But anyway, so there's all these different questions that I ask them, and here they tell me, the assignments are okay. I'm able to follow it. The collaboration with my peers is really important. Nothing this course was awesome. You were responsive and helpful. Thank you. So all these things I find out about what's going on with them. And there's, just lots of different questions. At the bottom, then I take an average. The top is 5. And so I can see what are the things they're really worried about. Well, this one is the lowest one at 4.3. I go back up and I look and, are the courses what I expected? So those are some of the things that is important for me, not only for future recruiting, because that makes me change the way I operate the program, but it helps me keep the ones that I have with me now. And they appreciate that because they want to tell me things and I want to hear it. And so I give them an opportunity to speak out and give me some information that can make this program better, because I'm responsible for a lot of students. And when I say that, I mean, I'm responsible not only for these students that are in this program, but for the students that they serve, and I take that really seriously. And so between those things, I think one of the biggest recruiters for my 2021 was when OIE posted the picture of the UMary graduates from 2018. That was amazing. Thank you. That was a great recruitment tool. I just said, if you want to know what it's looked like, go to the OIE site, and then you can see what it looks like. And our university is huge. They play the drum. We get a drum group from Standing Rock, and they don't play just for the Native students, but for the entire commencement program. They start, and those poor singers, they sing for a long time. You know, there's like 1,000 people that are walking in, and they sang the whole time. And if you think that is huge for recruitment, when Native scholars in our state hear the drum at a non-Native university playing for everybody, you can't beat that for recruitment. They feel like, okay, there's a connection there between that university and who I am. And, you know, and so does that make any sense? If you have any questions about it, you can let me know or text me later, but those are kind of the things that I use. They've seemed to be working really well. The students know I love them to pieces, and I can get mad at them just like a mom too. And so they know that too. So I can get upset with them and they know, and they're okay. So that's kind of it.
Thank you, Carmelita. Thank you so much for sharing your passion in that work. We're going to move on to Kelly Brain, but I'm just going to ask you, Carmelita, to look at the chat. You have a question there, and I'll let you answer that via the chat. And I'd like to turn it over to Kelly in Oklahoma.
Okay, thank you, Angela. So I have with me today, I have Stacy Hallmark with our Teach to Reach grant as well. She is our coordinator. So we're going to share a couple of slides with you today. So when Angela had reached out as far as on the recruitment process, we broke down our recruitment process basically in two parts. You see our outreach efforts as far as what we do. We have 6 different partner universities that we work with across the state of Oklahoma. We have created a T2R specific Facebook page. We have one that's open to the public, but one that's also closed, and that is just for our participants that get accepted into the program. We have a website link on our Choctaw Nation Career Development. I've also shared a link with you if you have an opportunity to click on that link to watch. We created a promotional video. That promotional video was created during our very first Teach to Reach grant, which was the FY18. We interviewed, because one thing that we are noticing, not only in the last grant, but in our grant right now, that across the state, there's a shortage. There's a shortage of teachers, and just trying to get individuals interested in pursuing this career. And so if you have an opportunity to click on that and watch that video, it is well worth your time. We interviewed some teachers, former teachers. We also have our very first Teach to Reach participant that is on there as well. We make university visits. When we do the university visits, we distribute our marketing materials. So they get copies of our paper applications. That way they have them available in their office. Pencils, pens, rack cards, which talks about our program. You'll see a copy of the flyer right there. We have a large pull-up sign that is that same information. That large pull-up sign is in the education department and also Native American centers on each one of these campuses. Send out email blast to the universities, and then they share it with their teacher education students and those that have identified as Native American. We do radio ads as well. And then we also participate. We have 2 events coming up in April. Because our universities, they get together, and then they have also, as far as the education departments across the universities across the state, they actually meet on a regular basis, and they are trying different outreach opportunities as well to try to recruit more teacher education candidates. Stacy and I, when we were making our last visits, they were talking about just the number of, you have your regular recruitment as far as your university recruiters that go out to different high schools and they have different events. But that's just to bring students on campus. Now the education departments, they're looking at, okay, what do we need to do as far as taking this a step further? Not only do we want them at our university, but we need to try to build up our teacher education candidates. And so they actually have us coming in April to help participate in some of those events. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change it over to Stacy, and she's going to talk about once we do our outreach efforts as far as what we do when we get into the application process and that side of the recruitment. Okay, Stacy.
Is Stacy muted?
Stacey, I don't think we can hear you. There you go.
So sorry. Here I practiced doing everything right and I didn't make it. So sorry. I was just going to say we also utilize our Choctaw Nation newspaper as well. I think we left that off our list. Someone else mentioned it. They do ads for us for, of course, that just goes to Choctaw tribal members across the country, but we get a lot of feedback from that one. So once we have received contact from an individual, some will email us after receiving that school email, some will call. I do an initial intake interview with each potential candidate, and I'll show you that form in just a second. Just want to be able to go over these bullets real quick. So we do an intake just to see if they're going to graduate within the program timeline, if they are in the teacher education program, just kind of determine their basic eligibility. Once we realize that they are a good candidate and a fit for this cohort, we send out copies of our application. We have a questionnaire. And we also send them a listing of the qualifying LEAs in Oklahoma. So we did cut that big list down and just saved the Oklahoma schools. So it's not quite so big in their inbox, but we send that to them to allow them to review if there are in fact schools where they plan to teach that meet the service payback requirement, because we really want them to understand it is a loan. If they have already been taking out student loans, we explain we don't want to add to that debt. So if they're not willing, or there's not a school in their area, they're not willing to relocate, maybe T2R isn't the best fit for them. So we really stress that up front. Once we get their application, we review that we have all of the documents and that they are, in fact, a good candidate. We schedule an interview with our selection committee team, which typically consists of myself and Kelly and 2 additional staff members. Both have worked as former educators. In fact, all of us in this department, I think, are former educators. So we get excited when we get to interview potential candidates and see their excitement about the program. Most of them are so excited to hear about the professional development piece, but we do really try to gauge their interest in the teaching field, the length of time it's going to take them to finish, their ability to and willingness to do our requirements. And we really go over the induction piece as well. And then once the interview is done, we have a point system. And so if they are considered competitive and in our acceptance category, as we call it, then we notify them that they have been accepted to Teach to Reach, and we schedule a signing day where we do the online PDPDCS creation, and we also go over our own participation agreement that we developed just to reiterate about the development we require and some of the other things in the induction. So then we have the signing day where all of that is gone over. So next slide I'm going to show you is the letter that I send out, or the email that I sent at the start of this cohort to our partner universities. Many had been contacting us, when do you know yet? Have you gotten the word yet? So they were excited when we were awarded it again. So I sent that out, and I will tell you, I've probably gotten the most referrals from this method. I keep track of how our participants and how our individuals that contact us hear about us. And I would say 90% has been as a result of the school sending it out. Some send it out to their whole teacher education program because it clearly states it's for Native American students. So it vets itself. And so typically only the Native American students will contact us. So it may go out to 1,000 students, at each university, which is great. And we also, as Kelly mentioned, have our pull-up signs on the campuses. It's so funny. We went to, I think it was UCO. Our sign had been up since the start of the 2018 cohort, but we got a new one because our information had changed a little. So we took that one down, donated the frame and the sign to the university to reuse and put up a new one. And that day, a student that had been going all this time saw it because it was a new sign. I thought that was so funny. So it's amazing that something can be there and they walk right past it. It just becomes old, I guess. And then when you replace it, suddenly it's new again. This is kind of the initial intake sheet that I do with each client. So it has our basic criteria, and we talk about their other financial aid, and we really heavily discuss the service payback before I ever even send them an application. I just want to be upfront and honest with them, that we don't want them to have to pay this back in cash. So that's a big deal with us. And then each time I talk to them, if we go back and forth, I have a section I can add notes from each contact after that. So this has been real helpful. It's also helpful when we do our interview process to fill in the other members of the team on what we've discussed and kind of some of their basic info. So that's it in a nutshell, I guess. Do anybody have any questions on that one? Don't think so. I don't see anything in the chat. So.
Not
Thank
yet,
you.
Stacy. This is great. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing. Let's go back to our main page. And Olani, do you want, I'm thinking maybe we spend the next 15 minutes in small groups. And then we can come back after that, probably right around 4, and then regroup and share out. But let's go to that next slide. And the Synergy team prompted you all to the extent that you had something that you'd like to share, any key documents for recruiting purposes, kind of what our folks have shared today with you. And again, thank you, Maria, Carmelita, and Kelly and Stacy. We also have some documents I know that folks have, the Synergy team pulled from University of Nebraska. If we have some time toward the end, we'll cover that too. But I really want to allow you guys to have time to talk amongst yourselves around the documents you're sharing. And you've heard quite a few sort of themes coming into today's presentations. And I'm hoping you guys can kind of speak to some of those themes. I'm really hearing the importance of relationships at the end of the day, right? It's still all about people. It's all about the people that you know, the networks, your partners, and how you're leveraging those networks and those relationships to be able to improve and be successful in your recruitment efforts. So let's, I'll turn it over to you, Alani, if you want to walk through the breakout.
Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. So we're going to be breaking into breakout groups, small groups, and you folks can have your own little discussions. And then between Tracy, myself, and Sarah and Angela, will be popping in and out to sort of see how the discussion is going and continue to learn from you folks. Okay. And so, Angela, you said 15 minutes. Was that correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we have about 15 minutes. Enjoy. Okay.
Hey, Olani or Sarah, just real quick question.
Yeah.
I see it's asking me to join room 1. Do you want me just to hang out there? Or do you want me to check on other groups as well?
Right now, with the number of rooms we have, we've got you in one room, Alani in one room, Karen in one room, Angela in one room, and then Beth in one room. So I think everybody has somebody that if something goes awry.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
Where am I?
Angela, I'm not sure if you got to see, because it was while you were presenting, but I did call G5 and it's 4:30.
Thank you for checking that.
No problem.
I am going to send out a G5 blast email
Okay.
on that to everybody, and feel free to follow on. I'll forward it to you.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say we can send one out too.
Yeah, that'd be great. I decided to leave my room so that I wouldn't make people feel like they were on the spot.
Understandable.
Yeah. No, I'm hearing so much about just how challenged people feel with getting people in the door.
Yeah, it's just not a time when teaching seems like the most appealing position right now.
No. I can't even imagine. How's the baby?
She's good. She's supposed to be going to sleep. We'll see.
How are her sleeping habits right now?
Okay, knock on wood. She's pretty good at night. She goes to bed and she gets up in the middle of the night once. And other than that, pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Particularly, I mean, she's 3 months next week, so she's still really little.
That's really good though.
Yeah. So that she's awesome at.
Yeah.
Naps, she is 100% convinced that if she goes to sleep for a nap, we do all the cool things while she's asleep. And so we can't go to sleep. I'm like, I don't know what you think we do. Like, I'm washing like dishes. I'm not doing anything that you would find enjoyable in the slightest.
But you might.
But I might do all the really cool stuff.
So she sees a world of possibilities.
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but she's getting better. She was where it was like, okay, maybe we can get like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Now she'll take some, but she kind of gives you this look like, I don't know why you're making me do this.
That's great.
You'd really think I was trying to ask you to do something horrible, not like lay down for a minute.
Oh, and how have you been? How have you been feeling?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. It's definitely an adjustment coming back. But yeah, it's starting to get used to it. Getting used to a little more, like I can hear her down the hall, but I'm not going to go.
I was just talking to somebody the other day, sharing that I was in Target, and I said, and I had to go get my kids some tights for an event, and I'm walking down the baby aisle. I said, and I just stopped and I just started cracking up because I said, I remember so many days walking down this aisle thinking, I know there's an end. Someday I won't be here at 9:59, the minute before Target closes, to buy the diapers I forgot to get during the day or something. I don't know when.
Yeah, but one day
that will end. And it felt like it was never going to end. And now that it's ended, it's like this, I kind of, the nostalgia, I'm like, yeah, Said, no, now the goal is to ward off the next aisle, which are the adult diapers, right?
Just push that one off as long as possible.
As far as I can.
I know Carlos and I were discussing this very thing the other day. We were like, one day we will sleep through the night again. Like, I know that eventually we will go to bed and like wake up in the morning, not at random times. But yeah, at the time, we'll never sleep again.
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen. Just don't think about it now at all. It's not worth it.
No. Yeah. Well, and it cracks me up because I realized that babies made noises in the night. He didn't. And so those first couple of weeks in particular, any little gurgle, and he's like, she's up. She is not up. Do not wake me up. She is not up. Like, it's just a very noisy sleeper. Like, look away.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was killing me. I was like, no, none of those are waking up. Look, her eyes are closed.
Oh, yeah. My first one never slept. She was colicky. That was
Oh.
rough for a few months. My second one, it's like she already knew. It was like clockwork. Like, I'm not going to do that to you. But, it's funny. They both, for a long time, when they were older, came and slept with me all the time. So now I'm like, okay, well, now I just have a buddy. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom said we were the same way. I never slept ever. She goes, I think you slept through the night when you were 3. She's like, it was just, you didn't sleep. And then, yeah, my sister was the little angel baby who would sleep. Now,
Mhm.
your kids good sleepers now?
For the most part, they are. Well, I have a teen now, so now,
Oh, yeah.
all bets are off, right? But I'm like, as long as she's quiet, we're good, and
Yeah,
or the
you've
quiet
hit that
isn't a
other fun
result.
phase.
Yeah, or the quiet isn't a function of her sneaking out or something,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Building a ladder out the window.
That's right.
Now, but she's
So
not in high school yet, right?
Say it again.
She's not in high school yet, right? She's in 8th grade?
No, she's in 10th.
Oh, in 10th. Why
She's
did
in
I think
10th
she was in
grade.
8th grade?
Yeah,
I'm
I
going to
wish she
turn
was,
back
but
the hands of time.
In COVID, it all froze. Yeah, she's in 10th
Yeah.
grade, and then my little one's in 2nd. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I could have sworn she was in it, but I guess, yeah, pandemic, she kept growing somehow during those years.
Yeah, it's going really way too fast now. So I'm not quite ready.
So this is Linda. I didn't want you guys to think I was just stalking you, but I've
No
been
worries.
just enjoying your stories, especially the ones about buying diapers, because of course I'm pre-diaper, paper diaper. So all of those diapers were hand washed.
Oh,
So, and I think my second son, until my second son, we didn't have a dryer, so we were hanging clothes out on the line. So
oh
I
boy.
just feel like a dinosaur here in this conversation.
No, you're just more hardcore than us.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. That's funny. Yeah. But it's a whole lot of fun. It really is.
Yeah, and she genuinely, she's a very happy little baby.
Oh, we got Renuka.
Yep.
Great.
And everybody in their rooms has about 1 more minute, so I'm going to warn them.
Great.
So sorry, I'm only joining now. I had another meeting. I apologize,
No worries.
but I'm dressed for the occasion. Look at my new glasses. I'm
Well,
ready.
And they match your outfit so snazzy.
I love turquoise. So, but anyway.
Renuka, only because you look so cool do you not get detention.
By the way, I've been elected as a co-chair for the what do you call for AERA research SIG qualitative. So this is nice to bring a different lens. Okay,
That's really awesome.
Very cool.
but now I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Working hard on the APRs. They'll be there.
Well, and if you're wondering where everybody is, we did not hide them from you. They're all in breakout rooms and they're coming back in about 30 seconds.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. Looking forward. That PD 21 letter, it's going to be posted, right?
It's in the G5 system. It's in your package. It's part of your package.
I didn't see that one, Angela. I saw the 118, but not the 21.
Okay, I'll send it again. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
All right, folks will be filtering back in.
Joining back. Speaking of kids, they're coming back home too.
Just in the nick of time.
All right.
We have almost everybody back. There's still a couple hanging on to the end. All right, you have everybody back in the main room.
All right. Can we do a gallery to see everybody?
Yeah, so I have everybody in gallery. If you want to see everyone in gallery, everyone, go up to the top right of your screen, and there's a little button that says view, and it normally has like a little
Great.
icon next to it, and you can change to gallery view and be able to see everyone too.
Perfect. And I see you now, Debbie. Great. Glad to have everybody back. I'm hoping if we can have maybe a couple of people just over the next couple of minutes share any highlight, something you learned from one of your colleagues or something that you want to share that resonated with everybody. I'm going to leave it more of an open forum here. Or questions.
I guess I'll start. Krista Boston had mentioned something in our breakout session that was, and it's something that we probably, some of us may forget about, but just making sure that we have those FERPA forms, so that in the event, that you do need to visit with someone, that you have those FERPA forms signed and available. We know that on the online system, we had to put a secondary contact, but it's also good to have that assigned FERPA form. So thank you, Krista, for sharing that.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Krista. Anyone else? I don't know. You guys are all looking very Friday afternoon. So let me move us along here.
I'll
Yeah,
can I comment?
Lydia.
I'll just comment. I'll comment that I really enjoyed this this meeting that we had. I feel like it's been really useful listening to everybody, those who are the veterans who speak up from their experience, and the small group to get a little bit of that personal dialogue, hearing what others had to share. So thank you for organizing this, and who planned it. You did an awesome job. Thank you.
I have to go back and say thank you, Lydia. And I'll say it's really you guys, because when I hear questions that are common that start coming up and you all have them, and some of you really have things to share that you don't realize you have to share, resources and experiences, you really all need to be able to rely on each other, for those answers. That's not something that's coming from us, and so I think that to the extent you have questions or you feel like, hey, I want to know what other people are doing about X, please feel free to share that with us, to send me a question and say, can we do this? Can we cover this? Because absolutely, this is your time. And so I want to be able to use it in a way that's useful to you. So please know that this is really not just about us relaying information to you, but a chance for you to share what you're doing and to ask your questions of your colleagues for best practices. Let's jump to the next slide. And next slide, there we go. Just a quick polling question we want to ask as we're on this topic about service payback and specifically the agreements. I know not everybody has done these, but to the extent that you have, and I'm only talking about the agreement itself. And Karen, I don't know if you want to say any more about this question, about what you're looking for here.
Yeah, we're just trying to get a sense of how long it's taking you. So, and this would include, sitting down. I think one of the earlier speakers talked about bringing people to campus and completing the PDCS with them. So that piece, but also just making sure that they are aware of all of the requirements. We're just trying to figure out how long you're spending on each participant on average.
Thank you. So if you guys don't mind speaking to that poll. And I'm also curious, just vocally,
sorry,
anybody.
I think I'm gonna have to ask people to vote one more time. Those of you who were sharers today, if you will not hit end poll, it looks like it's just you ending your poll, but it ends the whole poll. So I'm just gonna restart it, sorry.
Okay. There we go. All right, so if everybody can vote again on that, thank you, Sarah. And I'm just curious, for those of you who completed the electronic service payback, if you might share with your colleagues whether that's taking you longer, less time. Anybody want to speak to that? Because there's still some people who haven't used it.
I guess I will speak to that. You know, what we find hard, depending on how much computer knowledge they have, that's it, like we actually, if they Zoom in with us or if they come into the office, we actually bring their screen, have them log in, have them, you know, go to the site, everything. So that takes, just to get on, it takes probably about 20 minutes, and then more so if they're not familiar with the computer as well as, and then just answering the questions and things like that. So that we spend, you know, we'd like to keep them there for, we tell them when they come in, you know, be prepared to come in for an hour. Hopefully you'll get done less than an hour, but just to give you the, you know, and then stop and talk to them about the questions and how the payback works out. And then they have to, you know, make sure that when they do exit, make sure that wherever they're hired, that their HR, you know, go check with the HR. We still have a lot of students that don't go into the HR at their public schools when they get hired to say, hey, you know, I'm on this, and just to give them a heads up. So yeah, so it takes a while. Sometimes they're longer than 60 minutes, but you know, we just prepare them. We try to prepare them for that.
That's helpful, Dee. I'm also wondering, Karen, do we have on some of the resources sections, some of the screenshots of what they're going to get asked, or another format to maybe share that with them in advance?
Yes, so they can, you can either print off like what you're going to see, and what, you know, those initial pieces that you're filling in. And then there's also an opportunity for them to look at the screenshots of what they'll be asked for their employment.
So that might be helpful just to save time so that they know what they're coming in to answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think, did everybody get a chance to vote again on the service payback poll?
Yes. So those are your
Perfect.
final results.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right. And I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, great. Wow, this was a really great, I agree, this was a really great session and a really great talking circle. And so you should have a end of event poll that just popped up. If you could go ahead and take that end of event poll, that gives us a lot of really good information about areas that worked and other areas that didn't work and things that we can do better in the future. So that should be up. And then, Tracy, can we move to the next slide, please? Thanks. Okay, we're so excited to announce the dates for the virtual project directors meeting, May 10th through the 12th. All project directors are required to attend per the terms of the grant. Again, this meeting will be like last year, it's virtual again. And our theme is around celebrating the 50th anniversary of OIE's creation, which leads me to the next slide. As part of the OIE celebration, we are bringing back the fabulous Office of Indian Education Students Artist Competition. And so the theme is really around the OIE, 50 years of OIE, and a celebration and a call to action. And there are three different areas of the competition. One is art, which can be in all different mediums, from early child education through grade 12. Those are the participants that can be involved. We also have a writing competition, and that competition is open to students in grades 4 through 12. And then, of course, a video competition, which, you know, our kids are really into videos nowadays. And so that is open to students in grades 4 through 12 as well. It can include a personal performance piece and should be no longer than 3 minutes. There you see is on the bottom is April 15th is the due date for submissions, and all of the awarded first, second, and third places uh, winners will be notified as a part of our 50th celebration. Next slide, please.
So
Really
Alani,
want-
I'll just say real quick that just a reminder, even though your participants, guys, of course, are not K-12,
Right.
that's who they teach, right? That's who they support. So feel free to share it with them, to share and have their students participate. It'd be wonderful to see that participation from them, from
Yeah.
our successful teachers.
Yeah, exactly. And then next slide. Okay, thanks, Tracy. So this is another sort of poll or ask for information around sharing your folks' information. And so this is really a question about whether you consent to sharing your email address with other fellow grantees or PD project directors. Those of you who indicate yes on this poll will be included in an email sharing that will share your email with other people who agreed to have their information shared. Okay. So, all right.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
So I'm not the project director. Are you talking about the email at this meeting?
Which, yeah, it should be the project director.
Okay,
Email.
so his email. So
Well, maybe, yeah, maybe.
I have to say no because I'm sure he'll allow it, but I better just say no because I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Maybe I appreciate that question though, because that's right. Some of you are coordinators and not necessarily the project director on record. And Olani, we can send this query out again via our G5 system, which does go directly to project directors, just to make sure that we're asking the right people too.
Will do. Great idea. Thank you. Any other questions regarding that? Alrighty. Let's move to the next slide, please. So we've got some events coming up. Of course, we have your May PD Talking Circle as well as an August Talking Circle coming up. You should have that if you accepted the original RSVP. You should have that already embedded into your calendar. And then again, we have on March 24th your office hours. Office hours, again, is a great time to come together, ask any questions. Maybe you're getting into your APR or looking at your data. It's a great place to pop in and ask your questions. Again, that session is it's not content driven, it's your question driven. And so your fellow grantees come in and out. Some of them just sit there until they listen and then they learn along the way. So really want to encourage you to participate in office hours. Next slide, please. And then again, here you have your contact information. You probably are very acquainted with Angela's email as well as the OIE SEIservices.com email and the PDPDCS email as well for the help desk. If you didn't know, OIE does have a Twitter account at OIE Indian Ed. You want to check out that account if you haven't already. We're always posting new information about what, not just at OIE, but what's happening with grantees, as well as the landscape around Indian and Alaskan Native education. So it's a great place. Again, we want to thank you for participating. It was a great session. I do see a last question from Valerie. Is there a recording on the electronic payment agreement form?
There is. If we go back up, I think you might have sent it out earlier.
Yes.
And I think Tracy might have actually posted it in the chat.
Yeah. Let me go. I can go grab it.
And we can
or
repost that.
Yeah.
Valerie. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Before you go, Valerie, let's put this up here and then you can grab that. And let's see. Oh, looks like Tracy got it there. Okay, great. So Valerie, you can grab that link there and then have that access to that recording. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.